Previously.
You know what, with this wind farm kind of on my doorstep, it's kind of making me want to build a gravel bike.
So, with the help of the cute thief, I set about building a unique gravel bike using a 90s Cannondale Delta V frame. It needed some work to get it looking its best, so I spent part 1 stripping it along with the matching head shock fork. Once the fork was stripped, I then spent some time removing the rim brake mounts and getting a smooth finish. And that's as far as I got before running out of time for my weekly upload schedule. My next task is the most challenging of the entire build, so let's get started. I want to run this bike as a dual disc so I can use bigger wheels, which means I need to figure out how to get a working disc mount on this dropout. Then, if I'm feeling brave, I'll remove the rim brake mounts and upper bridge. But before I can do any of that, I need to see if a bigger 650V round will actually fit. I have a flyweight light bicycle XC725 rim, which only weighs as much as a 285 gram fly. It's a bigger round than the frame was meant for, but hopefully with a smaller tyre it should still fit. And what's this? The cute thief purring away? Nope, it's the Chris King hub he found, which does an excellent impersonation of him. I'd have loved to fit in an Industry 9 hub, but I guess he found them a lot harder to get hold of. Chris King hubs don't have as many engagement points, but they're still an amazing hub. And now for a wheel build montage and some real wheel facts to make it educational. You may have noticed I didn't stamp on this wheel. I think it would have worked if I was gentle, but the hub is used and already has the indentations, which is the reason I stamped the wheel in the first place. So to be on the safe side with such a light rim, I went easy on the stressing. I then fit some Gorilla bondage tape and add a valve to make it tubeless ready. Now I'm a fan of skin wall tyres, especially on old school builds, so the cute thief got me some Hutchinson Override models. They're meant for gravel and maybe even pebbles, so should be ideal for this bike, if they fit. I love this technique. Now let's see if I can give it a kiss of life with my compressor. Man, I seriously love this thing. I add a new hanger and see if this round will even fit. Now if you see my recent bike builds, you'll recognise this problem. Once again, the hub is meant for a through axle, so it doesn't actually slot into the frame. But weirdly, this hub isn't the usual 12mm axle standard, but 10mm instead. This is good news though, as this 10mm quick release axle is a perfect fit and works like a charm. It fits! Quite comfortably too. This couldn't have worked out any better. So now we know that it fits, can we get a disc brake to fit too? I'm going to see if we can get a 160mm rotor to work. I'll use this random caliper as a test part. There's a few adapters I can try, starting with this one. It's almost a perfect fit with bolt holes, but I would need to drill a new one, which isn't the end of the world. The issue with this mount though is that it sits so close to the seat stays that an IS to post mount adapter fouls with it. But if I was to use an older IS caliper, it's actually a perfect fit. I don't want to use this brake though, so I'll try the next adapter I have. This one is off to a great start as the bolt holes do line up perfectly and no extra drilling would be needed. But then it lets me down as no adapter will work. It comes kinda close, but the pad is definitely not hitting all the rotor. The last one I have looks promising. It's a post mount style, so no extra adapters would be needed, and it looks pretty neat on the frame. But the bolt holes don't line up at all, which meant some out of the box thinking was needed to get it to fit. I cut this out of a sheet of titanium, and when bolted on, gave a pretty strong mount. But after the effort of getting it fitted, I then found the caliper just outright didn't. I could have used spacers, but again the pads just weren't making enough contact. The last resort, and the one I was dreading, was making a mount from scratch. But you may have noticed I got a vise to make life easier. I don't have a mill or anything, but maybe this will be enough. Now before I go hacking away at this aluminium block, I should probably practice, so I have another block of Delrin to hone my skills. In an ideal world, to work out the shape needed, I would measure everything, then draw it up in CAD and get it machined. This isn't ideal world though, so I do it the alleyway. First, I rest a caliper where I need it to sit and take a picture side on. I then sketch the adapter design and I'm left with hopefully the exact shape needed. I also drew the disc. This is so I could get the size perfect by laying a real rotor the correct size over the top. Then using paper, I trace the outline. Once I have my cutout, I can stick it to the block to make it easier to see where to cut. Now this adapter was the last resort as I'm really doubtful I can cut a straight enough line with a hacksaw, especially on something like this where it's vital to have perfect 90-degree angles. Turns out I wasn't just being pessimistic, I'm nowhere near getting things cut straight. But I'm not giving up that easily though. I figured my vise is mostly flat and I should at least try to get the adapter close to see if it would even work, so I sand it as level as possible. That's better, but getting every side level with the intricate shapes is proving to be beyond my mortal skills. Time for the last resort. Now forget the custom adapter, it's time for a good old bodge. I reckon if I run this adapter backwards with the first mount and a 140mm rotor it might work, but to get more pad contact I need to trim it down a bit, which I did very carefully to keep things aligned. Amazingly, once bolted up it actually works. I did have to run a 100mm rotor like I mentioned, but that's no bad thing. It's lighter and will put less stress through the dropout. The only thing it needs now is a different hole drilled so I can mount it properly. By mounting the adapter backwards, I get a better angle to drill and I can get it lined up easily. Perfect. Not as neat as a custom mount, but it works, so I'll take it. Now that we know a bigger round and a disc brake fits, we can ruin every retro Cannondale collector's day by hacking off the brake mounts and the bridge. To make life easier, I'm going to use my grinder and flappy disc to power through the initial work. And yes, I am protecting my peepers. I also got a power file for a little more finesse. I won't be needing this, the base of the brake mount. Once I get near the end, I hand finish it for the best result. Stoked with that. A couple of colour blemishes, perhaps just the remnants of the weld, but it feels perfectly smooth to the touch. And now to repeat the process. There was still a lot of material for the grinder to get through, so I amputate it with a saw as much as possible first. Then it's back to the power trip. And then the manual labour. And I end up with perfectly smooth, bossless seat stays. I love hands-on jobs like this. Next up, the bridges. I think removing both would look best, but I'll actually leave the bottom one on and just remove the top. Removing them both might end up causing more flex and eventual cracking at the seat post weld. Because access is a little tighter, I tried using my Dremel, but it turns out that alloy is actually pretty tough and a hacksaw does just fit, so I used that instead. I think I might turn this into a keychain. Careful. I think I found a hidden talent here. A full frame in this brushed finish would be sick. Am I too old to use that word? But I think I still want to paint it. It does look good with them all removed though, doesn't it? Next is a bit of plastic surgery and filling all these blemishes. I used some acetone to clean the frame and then some quick steel putty to fill any dents and scrapes. Once dry, I sand it flat. The frame said something cheeky about the cute thief, so I gave it a bit of a general roughening up. This will also help its upcoming paint job stick better. I also mask any areas that I don't want painted. I also protect the threads by adding an arse bracket and water bottle bolts. And I learned from my mistake from when I painted my dirt jump bike and blocked the seat post hole too. Now it's time to get messy, so up goes my super expensive custom special spray booth. Then I hang my frame from a fine wire, which lets me get into every nook and cranny. I give the frame another clean with the acetone and then a blast with the compressor to make sure there's no dust or hairs, and I have been shedding my winter coat these last few months. Once the frame is clean and ready, it's time for primer. And after some comments from my last painting video, yep, I am wearing a mask, plus I also have the garage door open. After some vigorous vibrating, I apply a thin coat. And I do the same with the fork too. Once dry, I use a fine wet and dry sandpaper to give the next coat a better surface to stick to. Now I'm not sure if this is against the rules or not, but I'm mixing primers. I'm not driving today, so it should be fine. Plus, this one came with a cool trigger, and I am a sucker for cool triggers. This is also a different colour, which makes it easier to tell I've covered the whole frame. And of course, the fork gets the same treatment. After adding another coat of primer and sanding it down again, it's the moment we've all been waiting for, the colour. Although I apologise, I've run out of time again and I need to leave this on a cliffhanger to tempt you back, so please keep an eye out for part 3 where hopefully I'll finish the bike. But until then, any guesses on the colour I've chosen? Let me know in the comments. Here's the real purring from the cute thief to see out the end of the video. I hope you have an amazing week and will join me again next time. So until then, take care everyone, see you later.